Reader's Corner, Travel Mania. This is just so perfect because at my desk, I'm just sitting and reading of all of these wonderful places and the things that they have to offer. And I've not been anywhere from my bedroom to work. That's about as much as I've gone for the last year and a half. But Karen Gershowitz is here, and this is her fabulous book. It is Travel Mania, Stories of Wanderlust, all about traveling and the fabulous things that are there. Karen, when I had talked to you a few minutes ago, I told you I've not been anywhere. So many of us so badly want to get out, but your book is just full of travels all around the world. How in the world do you get to travel so much?
Well, part of it is that I'm a self-described travel junkie. I absolutely love traveling, and I have from a very young age. And so I made it a point to get a career where I could get them to pay for some of my travel, and so I could get travel miles. That was the other thing, because I was determined that I was going to see the world. And I have been to 90 countries, all 50 states, all the Canadian provinces, and I will go anywhere at any time. I'm the person that all my friends call when they say, "Do you want to go to?" And it's like, sure, why not? And I also travel by myself. If there's somewhere I want to go and no one else wants to go, I just pick up and go there by myself. So I'm not afraid of that. In fact, I quite like traveling by myself. So I've been doing it a long time.
So many of us haven't gotten a chance to travel because of the pandemic. Things have just been so different. So we are just listening here, just waiting to hear about all the places you traveled. What is your favorite place? What was your favorite place to go?
That's the question that I can never answer. I always say it's the next place I'm going to, because it's it's really an impossible question. There are so many places that I really love, and a lot of them that I've been back to many, many times. I've been to Greece many times, and this always surprises everyone. I've been to Australia 8 times.
Oh my.
Yeah, well, part of that, 6 of them were for business. But every time I went, I took extra days so that I would really get to see some of the country. But there is no such thing as a single favorite place, except New York City, which is where I live. And that's a great place. I love the city, born and raised here. And I would tell the whole world to come to New York City because it's just a great, as one of my friends put it, if you're bored in New York City, it's your own problem. Nothing to do with the city.
Yeah, it's funny. I like to visit for about 3 days, and then it's time for me to come back to Kentucky. So you talk about when you are visiting, you need to not go to the chains, where maybe you could eat that at home, but to try local. And we've learned in this pandemic that local is more important than ever before. But try local. So this is a 2-part question. First question is, what's the craziest thing you've ever eaten? And how do you get out there and find those local places?
Well, I often talk about the worst meal I ever had, which was actually quite funny. I was in Tanzania, and we were out in the middle of nowhere. We were camping, and the guide, as we went out on a trek, the guide left the cooks to make a meal for us, and the guide was British. So it was a British guy talking to Tanzanians who don't eat anything that Westerners eat. And we ended up getting a meal that was, instead of having a separate stew, dessert, beverage, it was all in one pot, which basically meant we had stew covered by canned peaches and condensed milk poured all over it with sardines as as decoration, and the oil drizzled over it. So we kept picking things out.
Did you like it?
That is not. Oh God, it was awful. Worst meal I ever had. Absolute worst meal I ever had. On the other hand, I've had fabulous meals, and a lot of the fabulous meals are not expensive. That's the thing that people always think, is that you have to go to a 5-star restaurant. And that's just not true. And it's not true in the United States, and it's not true overseas. Some of the best meals I've ever had are in little local places that just have someone who's a fabulous cook. They're often ethnic restaurants, and the meals you get are superb and not a lot of money. And one of the ways that I say to do that, and that I do it when I'm on the road, is first of all, don't ever ask anybody at the hotel. That's useless. Don't use a guidebook. That's useless. When you are somewhere walking around town, get into a conversation with someone and ask them what their favorite restaurant is and go there. And it can be a diner. It could be, I mean, I've had fabulous diner meals and the people are usually really friendly. But you have to put away your preconceptions about what's a good meal. You know, if the only thing that you're willing to eat are hamburgers and French fries, I'm not talking to you. But if you're willing to be a little bit adventurous, talk to people and ask them, and they will give you fabulous recommendations. I was down in, not far from you actually, in Arkansas, and I was walking around town and got into a conversation with a shopkeeper who said to me, oh, you know, if you're down here, this is where you have to go for lunch. They have the best barbecue in the entire city. And she wasn't kidding. The place was phenomenal. When I was up recently in the Finger Lakes in New York, which is known for wine, and they have wonderful wines, in one of the tasting rooms, I got into a conversation with the woman who was pouring for us. And she said, oh, well, here's where you have to go, and this is where you should eat. They have wine plus food. She said, at the end of the day, you have to go to this little creamery that's off the beaten path, and she marked it on a map for us. And she said, you have a flight of wine when you travel around? Well, they'll give you a flight of ice cream. So I was with a friend, and we went there, and we got 12 different tastes of homemade ice cream.
Wow.
And it was fabulous. It was really fabulous. And we would never have known about it. It was not a place, A, we would have found, or B, even if we had seen it, we wouldn't have stopped there. So it was just one of those phenomenal finds. The other thing was that as we were traveling around, I bought some wine, but I was not going to bring home cases and cases of wine. So instead, when I taste something that I really like, or if I'm in a restaurant and I get something I really like, I take a photograph of the label. And you'd be surprised how much you can find in your local stores, or they can order it for you. And a lot of people don't think to do that. But it's a way of bringing home your travels with you. And particularly if you're overseas, you know, you can't bring bottles of wine or whatever it is. I fell in love with the pear cider in Finland. It's one of the all-time great drinks. And, you know, I couldn't carry that home, but I found out that I could buy it in the United States. And I had labels of things, and I showed it in the liquor store, and they said, oh yeah, we can order this for you.
Yeah, it's amazing what you can find now if you just look and even ask your local folks if they have it. Travel Mania, Stories of Wanderlust, Karen Gershowitz, she tells all these fabulous stories. You could talk to her literally for a week and not get the same story. It's fabulous. Karen, we appreciate your time today.
Well, thank you for having me. It's been great fun talking with you.
All right, we'll have to talk to her again. And for those of us who have not been able to travel, it's wonderful. Travel Mania is the book, and you might be able to thumb through here and find out about her adventures, and you might find a place you want to go.